Welcome into the first Netflix Raw podcast. I am your host, Vince McKee, joined alongside me, my longtime friend and co-host today, Mr. Michael Rogers. Mike, welcome to the show. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Both of our teams have a chance to improve their playoff seeding today. Yourself with Green Bay and myself with the Denver Broncos. So even though a lot of NFL football is to be occurring here in an hour, the reason why we are here is to talk tomorrow night's big first edition episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. And I'm sure everybody's excited as a lot of wrestling fans out there to see how it's going to go down. And I wanted to ask you, I have a lot of questions about wrestling angles and wrestlers, obviously. But the first question I wanted to ask you is more of a semantics one. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So, again, this is more so semantics. And it's 4 parts, but they're all super, super quick. Do you think we could expect to see drastic differences with the mat, the camera angles, the opening, and then do you think we'll see any legends appear tomorrow night? Because the reason why I say that is they've been experimenting a little bit with the different camera angles already, and we saw on SmackDown on Friday a completely different mat.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to apologize. The church bells are going off right now. I live right behind a church, so if you can hear that, I apologize. But, yeah, I absolutely believe that you're going to see some drastic changes. Now, we talked earlier in the week, I had asked if you had saw any of the NFL games on Netflix, and they were, it seemed like there was some sort of new camera, some sort of more vivid, clearer picture. I think that's what you're going to see with the WWE and maybe even to another level. Now, with mats, I'm sure everything that you can think of is going to be new and upgraded. I'm sure there's going to be new mats. I'm sure there's going to be new cameras. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of legends coming back. For example, John Cena is going to be having his last tour. There's going to be a lot of surprises for sure.
Well, and that's the thing too. You know, I saw on one of the websites where they were teasing. They did a fake opening, and they took everybody from today, and they did a 1990s Attitude Era opening video. You know, like we used to come in with the burning buildings and Stone Cold walking, and it looked awesome. It really looked cool. So, you know, sometimes they let that stuff slip, and you could see it, and sometimes it's just fake. But who knows? Because that would be really, really cool. So there is so much to cover today. We only have 40 minutes, but here's the thing, though. Like there's just so much. So if I don't get to all of it today, we'll definitely have to do another follow-up episode extremely soon here. So I'm going to get right to it because, again, there's a ton. First things first, though, is Seth Rollins turning heel tomorrow? And here's why I asked that. It looked like CM Punk was ready to move on and just move on. And Seth Rollins kind of pushed this fight. His promos have been a lot edgier lately, a lot more hill-based. And it just seems like CM Punk seems to be the more popular wrestler, if you want to call it that. Do you think tomorrow night's the night Seth Rollins turns heel?
I do, and I kind of may end up taking that question in a little bit of a different direction.
Go right ahead.
Because to me, I feel like something intentional is happening with Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Kevin Owens. And I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be some sort of alliance between the three of them.
Yep. That's funny you say that. I'm thinking the same thing.
Let me flip it back on. Let
Sure.
me flip it back to you and ask, what do you think of that?
I like it, actually. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I noticed it a few weeks ago that Drew McIntyre came out and attacked, I think it was Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. And in the beginning of the show, they thought it was a mystery. It turned out it was him. And it benefited Seth Rollins in that situation. And I immediately thought to myself, okay. And it was like the last Monday Night Raw before the holidays kicked in. You know, the last really good one. And I looked at it, I'm like, they're setting up some sort of angle here for Rollins to turn heel and eventually side with Drew McIntyre. And then Kevin Owens comes out, Friday on SmackDown, and McIntyre comes out to Rhodes and all that. And it does make sense. And I'll go one extra for you on this one, Mike. And here's what I'll say about that, right? Here's what I truly think. They all have they all have the same beef. They're all red hot before CM Punk showed up. And the bloodline and everything else became a face, right? And here's what I mean. So Drew McIntyre is doing the best work of his career. He is on fire right now with whatever he touches. Kevin Owens has been on fire, in my opinion, for the last 4 years. He's been rock solid. And Seth Rollins is just a better heel than he is a face. Seth Rollins has a great theme music. Everybody, sings along with it, and that's where it ends. And CM Punk brought that out. He's mentioned that in a promo a few times. Seth Rollins is incredible bell to bell, but I don't think he's ever given a babyface promo where it's like, hey, this guy's great. Like, he's born to be a heel. And I can't, if you're going to have Roman Reigns as a face, you have to have Seth Rollins as a heel. They can never be on the same side of the ledger again. That's just how that story works, right? So I love your theory. I really, really do. And then it leads me kind of into my next question for you. So you have Seth Rollins, okay, because I think this is going to throw you for a loop, and maybe it won't. But you have Seth Rollins as a heel. You have Drew McIntyre as a heel. And obviously Kevin Owens is already a heel. Now, Kevin Owens, his feud with Cody Rhodes is probably going to end at WrestleMania, or not at WrestleMania, at the Royal Rumble, which leaves WrestleMania wide open. So for Rhodes, is it Rollins at WrestleMania? Is it McIntyre at WrestleMania? Or for Rhodes, is it a guy he actually shared the ring with last year in the main event, celebrating a guy who actually came out to try to help him win and finish the story? You mentioned him earlier. Is it John Cena versus Rhodes?
See, this is tough for me because what I think the WWE really does a great job at is they have a lot of different people intertwined. So in case something happens, they can kind of spin off to another. For example, how many different beasts do the Bloodline have? How many different beasts does Cody Rhodes have? All these guys are feuding. So,
well, look at last year's title scene with Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk all involved. All 4 people got involved in that match, right? And McIntyre beats Rollins, Punk helps Priest, beat McIntyre with the cash in. So yeah, to your point, yes, it's amazing how they do it.
Selfishly, what I kind of hope, and I don't know if there's enough time to get it going or not. You know who I really want to see Cody wrestle at WrestleMania?
Who?
Randy Orton.
No, there's plenty of time. But yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it, Mike, but they intertwine so many things that make you think so many things. Because he mentioned his mentor, Randy Orton, 2 weeks ago on a promo. And it's like, well, there it is again, right? It's right there.
Let's think about this real fast. Let's kind of break this down because we essentially have 2 nights, so we have 2 main events, right?
Yep.
So we know for sure that with the Bloodline coming to Raw, and obviously CM Punk being part of Raw, CM Punk and or Roman Reigns are going to be in a main event. Is that safe to assume?
Yeah, I mean that. I had a question down the line that we'll get to in a bit, but just to preview it, that question legit was: is CM Punk the most logical face of Raw, or do they complete the Gunther face turn? Because somebody's gonna have to face, the bloodline of Roman Reigns. But yeah, no doubt.
Well, let's look at it in a little bit more of a business sense. Cody's a great champion, but he's not CM Punk in terms of selling tickets. That's fair, right?
Oh, I'd agree with that. He had a great story.
Cody's not as big as Roman Reigns in selling tickets. Is that fair?
Also correct.
So I'm thinking that there's CM Punk and or Roman are going to have to be a part of one of those main events. I think that they are going to, one of those two is going to have the belt that Gunther currently has. Because I think that's essentially the Raw belt, right?
It is, and I cannot see Roman Reigns being in any match that isn't the main event. I just can't. I mean, it's just, he's gone to that Hulk Hogan-like status of, the guy's got to be in the main event, and if he's not, it's weird.
Okay, so I promise I'm going to tie this back into Cody. So we also agree that Cody's more than likely still going to be champion for WrestleMania.
Also agreed.
So we're essentially talking about what? 1 or 2 slots available. What makes the most sense for Cody right now?
Well,
I don't think it's anyone in the bloodline.
Nope,
I feel
he's
like
done.
KO and Cody is going to wrap up before WrestleMania.
Yep.
I think that I feel bad saying this because Kevin Owens is an incredible performer, but I think they want someone bigger for that slot. Would you agree with that?
Yep, and Kevin Owens is about to be 0 for the century at the Royal Rumble trying to win a world title. I think this is his 5th attempt. So, yeah, no good.
And I don't think you're going to see someone like The Rock come back and face Cody for the title.
Jeez, then you got
It's
that.
possible. I don't think so. I mean, Cena coming. It could potentially. It's going to be Cena, I think, or it's going to be Randy Orton.
And the wild thing about it is, for Cody Rhodes, for me, is that up until a few weeks ago, I was sold on the idea of a rubber match. You know, the 3rd straight year, first time they ever had the same main event 3 years in a row. You know, Rock and Austin went 3 different times, you know, years apart. But I loved the idea of Rhodes versus Reigns year 3. And when you look at that promo that they did, I think it was at the Georgia Bulldog Stadium or Georgia Tech, I believe. You know, they did that one promo, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I think this is what they're setting up. It just, again, there's so many things going on because you have that, right? And then you'd have a possible Randy Orton coming back as a heel, you know, student versus mentor. You have Cena possibly coming back. I mean, I don't know what to make of it. There's so many, like you said, there's so many different options, and there's really, truly just one slot for it, right? And we'll get back to that in a bit. So I'm gonna circle away from that for a quick second because that's a long topic. There's so much to discuss there. I'll give you a layup. I'll give you a really quick layup. You're a basketball guy. I figured you would love that term. So to me, this looks like a slam dunk. So hey, shit, there 2 basketball terms in one sentence. Does Rhea defeat Liv on Raw tomorrow night? Is this finally ending? Rhea wins the title back from Liv and then moves on?
I think so because I think Liv has taken it as far as she can with this story and the title. I mean, at this point, if Liv does defeat Rhea, then where are we going from here? I mean, it's essentially just the same thing.
Pretty much.
I think, yeah. I mean, because I think that you have to. I think you have to get the belt back on Rhea because Rhea is going to be main eventing, for the female. She's going to have the highest, probably the highest match, whatever you want to say.
Yep.
The most important match for the female side.
So here's what I'm guessing, right? I think they do. It's a 3-hour show. So how they line everything up is we'll see. And I want to be shocked if it was Roman Reigns versus Solo as the main event to close it out. But to top off one of the hours, you always want to have a big hour turn, whether it's the 8 going into 9 or the 9 going into 10, before you get to that main event.
Vince, let me cut you off real fast.
Yeah.
Can I sneak something in just in case you bring it up? Because I want to be ahead of this just in case.
Woo! Go ahead.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Exactly where I was going.
Well, that's my point. I think she's coming back. So, as for go ahead, you could say it. You could look like the genius. Go ahead. But we're on the same page.
You already put it out there. Because
oh
I
yeah,
feel
it's happening.
And I also thought it was very interesting that Tiff cashed in Friday.
Yeah. Oh, it's all
because
part of it.
Can you imagine a Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton match at WrestleMania?
Well, it would all depend on what kind of attitude Charlotte has going into the match, but I think that could be really good. I like Tiffany Stratton a lot, but you're right though. I think here's what happens. Like you said, Liv can't win. I mean, because then where the hell do you go? There's nothing left, right? You really tap that keg as much as you can tap it. I truly believe, as you said there, you alluded to Rhea over Liv, and then Charlotte shows up at the end of that match. They begin that feud. If not at the Royal Rumble, they might save it to the Royal Rumble to start the Charlotte comeback. But I mentioned it earlier. I would love that rubber match. You know, they fought at the WrestleMania where there was no fans, you know, a few years back during the pandemic, Ripley and Charlotte. And that was an NXT type battle. 2 years ago, I will die on this ledge. I will tell you again. 2 years ago, WrestleMania 39, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte is the greatest female match that has ever taken place in women's wrestling. That match at WrestleMania was out of this world. You know, that was the same year Cody lost, but just phenomenal. So if they go again for a third time, I can see that making sense, as you said. And I love Becky Lynch, but I really hope they don't try to shoehorn her in there for any reason. I just don't think there's a reason to do that. But yeah, I would love that setup. So to me, it's a very simple answer. Yes, she beats Liv, and they begin to set up the Charlotte feud, if not tomorrow night at the Rumble.
Well, let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're kind of going all over the place, but there's just so much going on in the WWE right now, and we don't have to talk too much about this stuff. So let's just focus on the women's side for a moment.
Yeah.
Assuming everyone is healthy.
Cool.
Like, who are you prioritizing with, one, titles, and two, their opponents?
Rhea Ripley.
For your WrestleMania.
I think
matches.
Mike, I think you start with Rhea Ripley and you go down from there. Last year was a unique thing because I don't think anybody cared about Becky Lynch at that point. Oh, hey, Becky Lynch is going to challenge Rhea for the title. And at that point, Rhea Ripley was still a heel, but she was getting cheered like a face, right? So that made that awkward. Then you had the underdog Bayley fighting against Damage Control, and her and Io Sky, as I still call her, Io Shirai, had a phenomenal match. So this year, to answer your question, I truly believe it's Rhea Ripley and everybody else. And I hate saying that, but I think that's the case. So you have Rhea Ripley on top, and then now you have the Tiffany Stratton thing. I don't even know how long that title's going to last. I don't even think she makes it to WrestleMania. I like Tiffany time a lot, but I just feel like that might be a transition championship. We'll see. So I don't have a good answer to your question other than I truly believe you prioritize Rhea Ripley, her feud most likely with Charlotte, and then you kind of go off of there with who's the most healthy. And I don't know who's selling the most t-shirts. I have no idea. But it's just... the one thing I'll say is this, Mike. I'll say this. The most talented female wrestler that does not get any kind of push that she deserves and should, and maybe she'll win the belt here next week, is Lila Valkyrie. So I believe she's in the finals of...
I was just thinking about her because I'm so glad that her match...
She's incredible. She's incredible. Yeah, hell yeah. So she finished second... at the Queen of the Ring, you know, she took second. She took second in some other tournament I forget that they had. The Money in the Bank ladder match. There's just so many things where she's really, really good, outshines everybody, and then takes second. So
yeah,
I absolutely love Lila.
That ladder match
phenomenal.
Was insane.
It was so good.
And I were like, the bumps that she was taking. Oh my god!
When we met Chelsea Green. A few weeks later, myself and Madeline and Maggie met Chelsea Green. That's one of the things somebody said to her was, hey, you really had a phenomenal... I think it was me, actually, now I think about it. Was, hey, Chelsea, you did really good in that ladder match. There were people that stood out in that match. Chelsea Green, Tiffany Stratton, Lila Valkyrie, right? So now you see a belt on Stratton, you see a belt on Tiffy Time. Why not get the IC belt on Lila?
Yeah. And Chelsea Green is really incredible.
She's phenomenal.
She is someone that I used to not care for at all. I would just get annoyed every time she would come on screen. And she is one of my favorite performers.
Oh, yeah.
I love Chelsea.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more of an answer than that, other than I think they're starting to push, and it's so overcrowded. I mean, Bayley is still money. Bayley is absolutely money. Bianca Belair is great. But the problem is that you're just so overcrowded in that division. In fact, I'll say this real quick, too, before we move on. I'll say this because I've been telling my family and friends this, and they think I'm nuts. Bianca Belair's headed for a heel turn, folks. Whether you think she is or not, she's headed for a heel turn. Yeah. It's obvious. Everybody thinks that it's Naomi. They're going to say, hey, Naomi attacked Jade, so she can be a part of the tag team. Going back to last year's Royal Rumble where they both debuted, you know, Cargill came and debuted at the Royal Rumble. Naomi came back. And then they were together at WrestleMania. Like, the storyline's there, and it's going to be like, oh, well, Naomi was just jealous. She was jealous of Jade, and that's why she attacked her. Well, that's true, and that's going to come out, but the other part of it that's going to come out is that Bianca put her up to it, because Bianca didn't really care for tagging with Cargill, and the storyline's right there, folks. And the fact is Bianca on the main roster has never been a heel, and now's the time, because you have faces who are so over through the moon, like the Tiffy Time, like Rhea Ripley, like Bayley, like Io Sky, like if what's-her-face comes back, we were just talking about. So Becky Lynch. There's so many monster faces right now for women that Bianca Belair is so lost in the shuffle, it's not even funny. And a heel turn is right there. And like I said, it's set up perfectly for her to say, hey, we attacked Jade Cargill together. I can't believe no one else is talking about it, because to me it's obvious.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, who else would it be? What other motivation would there be at this point in time?
It's just, there's so much talent, man, and it's not everybody can be a face, right? And, you know, and that same thing, I guess we could kind of go back to it, because it's probably going to be the last 25 minutes of our show, because it's just so much to talk about. So let's go back to it again, right? There's only so many spots. You have 2 world titles, and that's it. You know, 2 main events, and that's it. There's only so many spots. So I'm going to go back to this question again, and I'm going to get a little bit more deeper than I did last time. Is CM Punk the most logical face of Monday Night Raw? You keep Rhodes a mainstay on SmackDown, Punk on Raw. And if they do, what about Gunther? Because Gunther now has become a hated heel to a tweener. He's starting to get a lot of positive response, right? But then you still have Damian Priest on that product. You still have Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
What do you do? Because you're not going to... I mean, I don't know. I want to think. Like, you're not going to turn Damian Priest heel again. You're probably not going to turn Sami Zayn heel. You're not going to turn Jey Uso heel. Jey Uso is the most over guy in the company. Like, he's way up there. So,
yeah.
To me, it's almost like, okay, you're not going to take the belt off of Gunther. You need to start building the 2 secondary belts to give these guys feuds if they need them. And I couldn't even, off the top of my head, I had to scratch myself for a second, to remind myself, okay, it's Shinsuke with the U.S. title on SmackDown, and it's Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title on Raw. So you have 2 decent second-line champions. But, Mike, I'll just shut up and let you talk. How do you see all this shaking out? Because, again, there are so many spots to go around. What do you do with some of these guys? I mean, Damian Priest is red hot. What do you do with him now?
Okay, well, at some point, I think we're in agreement. At some point, the belt has to get off of Gunther. I think CM Punk's going... I think they want the belt on CM Punk. I think they want him to make that belt. Because there's a few different things that I can see happening with Gunther. Damian, I'm really not sure. Like, obviously, there's the Finn Balor thing that's still going on. But, I don't know. Damian's kind of in a weird space. With Gunther, though, there's a couple spin-offs, right? So, we had the little teaser with Mr. Goldberg. When was that? When was that? Was that SummerSlam? Was it Survivor Series? When was that?
What was that you said? When Gunther beat Priest for the title?
No. When Goldberg showed up.
Oh, gosh. Oh, that was overseas. That was one of those Crown Jewel things.
Okay. So it was sometime in like September or October, something.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, it was over the summer for sure. Oh, God.
I think that's going to happen. I think those 2 are going to face off. But then also, where I think there's going to be a hell of a rivalry is Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser.
Oh, that's another thing brewing.
Yes. And that doesn't need to be a title feud, you know? So I can see that taking up about what? How many months could that take up for Gunther right there? At least half a year with Kaiser taking up like the majority of that feud.
It could be 3 months, but I think Goldberg is one off if they even attempt that with him.
I think they bring that back. They build that for a month. So
that's it.
If that's
a
month, build with the end of that month being the match. And then you have, 4 months, 3 months for Gunther and Kaiser, whatever. So, and then you could, I don't know. There's some other stuff you could do with Gunther. But with Damian Priest, I have no idea. Like, he's super hot right now. He's super over. Obviously, that feud with him and Finn Balor has to come to an end. I really don't care to see him and Dom do anything. I really don't know what to do with him. He might just get lost in the shuffle, and they're just going to have to kind of figure something out. What do you think about Damian Priest?
Man, I think it's the classic case of you have, I don't want to say too many, but you have quite a bit of huge faces on one product. And here's the thing. Listen, I'm a product of the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, but really the 90s for me. And Goldberg was so over and so huge. I absolutely loved him. I'm done ever watching him wrestle again. So for me, I don't think you want to shoehorn him. I use the term shoehorn twice in one podcast. I don't think you want to slide him in a main event out of nowhere right now. To me, like you said, that's more so like a summertime thing when nothing else is going on. When you need something to kill time at the WrestleMania, maybe a Goldberg match. But from this focus on, considering we are in January, and so we're about 3.5 months out of WrestleMania, I just feel like that would make no sense. The Kaiser thing makes a ton of sense, and I think they've already...
Think about it this way, too, though. What do we have in between now and Mania?
That's it, except Chamber. They do the Rumble in the Chamber, right?
Exactly. The Chamber is... What is the Chamber... What is the relevance of the Elimination Chamber anymore?
A lot of times now they're using it to name a number one contender.
So essentially, that would be if they were to do something, and I've heard Goldberg talk about it. I don't know how much validity there is to it, but if it were to happen, I think it would happen like that.
Yeah, 100%, because it's either gonna, like you said, it's either gonna happen there or over the summer. There's no way, no chance in hell, because sometimes they need that pay-per-view to kill time, right? They need to get that Elimination Chamber in, and if the guy already knows who he's fighting, or there needs to be a number one contender for that at the next, at Mania, they knock that out at the Chamber. So, no, I think you're right. So let me ask you this then, as we close out the show here, as we're kind of running out of time. Sami Zayn, Damian Priest, Jey Uso. Which one of those three Monday Night Raw superstars, who are all insanely over right now, make the switch to SmackDown in the portal? Because one of them has to go eventually.
I would say, well, who would benefit the most would probably be Damian Priest. Because with the Bloodline still involved with Raw, it would make sense to keep Jey and Sami there just... But you know what? I forgot about this. Do you remember when, I believe it was when KO was getting interviewed by Michael Cole in the car. He made a reference about, they're obviously talking about Cody, but he made a reference about Sami Zayn also siding with the Bloodline and Roman, and how he'll handle that at another time. Did you catch that?
Yep.
Okay, so that also would make sense for Sami Zayn to go over too, because Kevin Owens is going to be on SmackDown, right?
Oh yeah, he's not going anywhere. So it wouldn't shock me if Zayn ends up over there, or stays there.
Yeah, because I mean, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they're always money. They're always going to put on the show. There's always that story that you can come back to. So I can see that, but I think Damian Priest might benefit a little bit more from going to SmackDown and kind of getting away from the Judgment Day and all that.
Well, my man.
Because, I just don't know what I don't know what he logically can do right now.
I don't know. Yeah, great question. Great question. I don't know. And I think, too, again, you can't really go wrong with whoever you send wherever, because it's just, they're so red hot right now that it isn't like one brand is going to be determined or dependent on one or two guys, because they're so deep, right? So,
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
So, think back to the 90s and what Eric Bischoff wanted to do. Now, it's not going to be an exact correlation, but what was Eric Bischoff's intention with the NWO? What was, like, his real intention?
Oh, like storyline based?
Yeah.
To make it seem like they were killing their own product, WCW.
Right, but he also, like, it was essentially, like, the NWO versus WCW.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so because there's so many top guys and there's so many, there's such a log jam. What if you try to do something similar to that, but just obviously better? And so you cleared out some room with, like, the title chase, and you just had, all right, we have the Bloodline versus WWE. And the beginning of it is Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre as the first three. And that is a storyline that you could take on for 6 months, and people come in and out of it, this and that, whatever. Because if you did something like that, you included some guys, like some top name guys, to where, let's just say, Randy Orton comes back, he settles his whatever with Kevin Owens, but then he turns heel, and then he joins them too. So you're getting big names in a big storyline, a number of big names in a huge storyline, and then you're also able to have, these titles where, like, Damian Priest can get back in the mix, Gunther can get back in the mix. These other guys are kind of, they're hot, but we don't know what to do with them. What do you think of something like that?
It's a decent enough idea to try. I just don't know how this writing team is going to handle that, right? I mean, we talked about Bruce Pritchard is not there right now. I think he's dealing with his wife's issues. I don't know. That's a guess. It seems like a kind of a more drastic left turn for this writing team to take. But who really knows? At the end of the day, it's Triple H and the UFC that are probably going to be making the final decisions. I truly don't know. I mean, it's a thought, but
Well, what are they teasing with Seth, Drew, and KO? Because we've seen those three interact, but it's been more so like the two of them
right
on different shows.
No, I think...
But they're teasing something with those three.
And you need a fourth. Because to me, it's almost like, okay, you have two on each show if you want, or put all four on the same show and wreak havoc. But three, we saw work with the Shield, but almost every faction's always had four, right? So it makes you think, like, okay, there's somebody that you and I aren't even talking about right now, or even thinking about, that might be the perfect fourth slot for that group. I mean, it is something. I think you're right, though. They're going to do something with them. I just don't know what yet. I think it's probably a matter of time before we see it. Definitely well before WrestleMania, so they have enough time to build it. I like where... Excuse me. I like where you're going. I just don't know where it ends, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do. I really do.
You have to also think about who's in control.
Right.
Triple H.
And there's so many...
Triple H is someone that is long-term storytelling.
And you have a heel faction in the new Bloodline. So it's like, you already got this heel group with the new Bloodline. Do you want to have a second heel group? And then you only have one face group. I mean, it's just, there's so much going on. So I will leave it at this, as our buddy Zoom tells me that we have a little over 2 minutes here. So I'll make this super quick. Here is where I see this going. Here are my predictions. We'll see how it plans out, all right? We'll know more in 24 hours, clearly, or 48 hours. My prediction is this: Punk versus Gunther at WrestleMania. I think it just makes the most sense. Punk versus Gunther, face versus face. But then on the SmackDown side, I think it's either Rhodes versus Reigns in the rubber match like I've wanted for a long time. Rhodes versus a returning Cena, or Rhodes versus a returning Orton. Mike, if I was to stick a gun to your head right now and say, hey, listen, you need to tell me right now what's the main event of the Raw brand and what's the main event of the SmackDown brand?
Oh, well, I'm going to say CM Punk versus... I really think this would be CM Punk versus Roman.
Okay, so Gunther defends the title in the beginning of the show. Kind of like last year when...
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that too. Okay.
Yeah, and...
Punk never said he wanted to win a title at WrestleMania. He's always said he just wants to main event it.
Yes, exactly.
And you look at last year, Night 1's main event ended without a title, right? It was the tag team match, which we didn't mention his name. We're out of time, so we can't really talk about him, but I have to believe The Rock's going to be doing something too. So there's just a ton going on right now. And then on the SmackDown brand, are you sticking with Rhodes versus Orton, or are you thinking they might switch it up?
I'm going Rhodes versus Orton. I think that's a big money, big time storyline match.
That we'll see it. All right, folks, thank you again for joining us. We'll see what the views and everything gets for this little podcast here, but I could speak for Mike, I believe, and say that we're both very excited for tomorrow. Mike, we got 30 seconds left. Anything else you want to throw in real quick?
No, I'm just really looking forward to Monday, the first Raw on Netflix. It's going to be really impressive. I think you're going to see some spectacular things, and definitely going to be a handful of surprises for sure.
Couldn't agree more. All right, for Mike Rogers, I'm Vince McKee. We're going to go watch some Packers and Green Bay football. Sound good?
Go Pack, go!
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.